Друзі, вітаю на каналі Верба! З вами Ніка Мінченко, ваша учителька української мови. And today I suggest us to talk a little bit about the differences in learning the Ukrainian language as a native language and as a non-native language, like a second or foreign language. And here I do not talk about how native Ukrainians, for example, learn their own language when they are babies, because this is a separate topic. Baby's brain just works differently from the brain of an adult, and absolutely other processes is happening there, so we never can compare learning your native language, like learning to use it, to speak it, to understand it from a very small age. And that is why we language teachers always tell you that, unfortunately for us adults, it's impossible to learn the foreign language just as kids learn their native language. But instead, in this video, I want us to compare this more already conscious approach to learning a language, Ukrainian language, and to compare how we do it as native speakers at school during all the years that we learn it, 10, 12 years, and how non-native speakers learn it, mostly adults, yeah? Or, for example, kids, but again, not babies, but already more like conscious learning of Ukrainian as a foreign language. And I think that here we should start, of course, with the goals, because we understand that the goals will be different for not native and native speakers. And I think you understand the goals of people who are not native speakers even better than me. But in general, we understand that if we learn a foreign language, we learn it in order, first of all, to communicate effectively in real life with native speakers, right? To understand this language. Of course, we learn how to build functional grammar and vocabulary, because during the lessons we specifically pay attention to it, or developing different types of skills like reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And of course, also very often it is very important to integrate culturally and socially, especially if you are planning to move or at least even visit the country, the language of which you are learning. Well, for native speakers, the reasons are completely different, right? Native speakers already know how to use their language, but at school they learn to develop this general linguistic and even meta-linguistic competence. So it's much deeper learning of your own language. Also, native speakers need to learn how to use their language properly in different communicative styles, starting from conversational style and ending even academic. They need also to build deep general cultural and intellectual competence, and of course to be ready to use all of this knowledge that they gain within all those years at school for learning other foreign languages. Because when you have this linguistic competence, it becomes much easier for you to analyze and learn other foreign languages in the future. So even learning your own language deeper as a native speaker can help you learning foreign languages. And now I want us to look a little bit at different aspects, parts of learning the Ukrainian language from these 2 points of view. And we will start, of course, with the cases, because this is the most frequent topic, yes, that we discuss when we are learning Ukrainian as a foreign language. So for not native speakers, what we do about cases. Of course, we learn the endings of cases. Yeah, we need to know which ending will be for the masculine word, which for the feminine, which for plural. We also need to remember certain situations when we use each case. So, for example, if we go by some transport, we use instrumental case, right? But if we go to some place, this destination point, it will be in accusative case or genitive case. And together with this, we also learn prepositions, that we need to use with this or that case. And after learning it, our goal is to automate use of these cases, to train it good enough in order to start using it without thinking and overthinking, just naturally. This is how we work with cases. So, for example, if we have a sentence, Я купила подарунок для мами. And we are interested in the word mama. We see the word, we see that it ends with I and it goes after preposition для. So we understand that it will be genitive case, And we know that mama in genitive case has ending I. Mama becomes mama. This is how we learn it on our lessons, right? But what about native speakers? Because native speakers already can speak this language without thinking. So basically, when a child learns to speak, they already know how to use those words and in which situations to use each form. But they do not know a theory behind that, They don't know about existence of those cases. So at school, they first of all learn that such thing as cases exists and what it means. They learn the set of questions for every case, and this is how they learn to define each case. For example, a child already knows that mama can be mami, mamою, mami, and so on. And by putting a question to this or that form, a child needs to define which case is this. For example, я купила подарунок для мами, the same sentence, but how we look at it at school in Ukraine. We ask a question. Подарунок для кого? A gift for whom? And we know that кого is the question of the genitive case. And this way we define that the form мамы is a genitive case. And this is how kids would learn cases at school. And it is kinda on contrary. We look at the cases as native speakers completely from the other side. While if I would ask the same questions to you, you would not be able to reply to them because you don't know those questions, you don't know those forms and those endings. So you are supposed to learn cases differently. For example, we know that for feminine words, the ending in each case will be like this. Я in nominative, I in genitive, and so on. You can see them on your screen. While native speakers instead learn not the endings, but question words. We also learn them, but we not use them as a base for learning cases, right? So the native speakers will learn that nominative case will have questions хто що, but genitive кого чого, and dative кому чому. And this is how they approach this topic. Also, let's take a look at the aspects of verb, because here situation is pretty similar. We as people who learn Ukrainian as a foreign language, we need to understand in which situations we would use perfective and in which we use imperfective verbs. What is the difference between them, and how to form them and how to conjugate them and in which tense to use them, right? But native speakers already know it all. They know how to use it. But in school, we would learn how to define the aspect of verb or this or that verb. So we learn kind of to differentiate it. And how we do it? The same as with cases. We ask a question to the verb. So let's compare on examples. For non-native speaker, we learn what's the difference between the verbs робити and зробити. We discuss in which situations we use them. Or, for example, we learn prefixes for these verbs. Доробляти, still imperfective, доробити, perfective. But like it will mean to finish this work, yeah? Or заробляти, заробити, this prefix za already means to earn, yeah? So we learn all those differences. While a native speaker would read a sentence Маша купила продукти and then ask a question. Що зробила Маша? Зробила, but not робила. And this way we understand that this is perfective verb. Купила is perfective verb because the question is зробила, but not робила. But if we read a sentence Маша купує продукти, the question for купує, a native speaker will ask as що робить Маша? Купує. So купує will be imperfective verb because the question is що робить, but not що зробить. So this is how we learn the aspects of verb. What about parts of speech? When you are non-native speaker, we learn parts of speech in general in order to know how to use them in sentences, yeah? So, for example, we learned that the phrase гарна погода has an adjective and a noun that are both in feminine form. And we need to know how to change an adjective by cases and how to change a noun by cases in order to receive the phrase, for example, in genitive case. Adjective will have ending ої in genitive case, while noun have ending и. And we would say гарної погоди, right? So we need to know about each part of speech and its characteristics in order to use them in the sentence. While native speakers already know how to use them in the sentence, but we need to learn features of each part of speech. For example, that nouns would have genders, 3 genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter, number, it can be either singular or plural, and 7 cases. Adjectives have the same, just normally 6 cases because vocative kinda is not used for adjectives. Verbs would have 2 conjugations, like first conjugation, second conjugation, 3 tenses, 2 aspects of verb, genders in the past tense, and so on. So all the characteristics of each part of speech. Or for example, that the adverb is an unchangeable part of speech. If we speak about phonetics, here also we have pretty different approach, right? Non-native speakers would learn how to pronounce Ukrainian sounds in words, especially if these sounds do not exist in your language and you need to learn in general pronunciation of those sounds, especially in different positions in the word. For example, how to pronounce lis и lis. And what will be the difference between lis and lis? As in terms of physical pronunciation, so where to put your tongue, and also in general how it sounds, how to distinguish it when you hear it, and how to say yourself correctly. So what will be the difference basically between sound I, and how L also will be different in these 2 words like L and L, hard and soft. While native speakers know how to pronounce it, but they learn characteristics of these sounds in words, in each certain position. And we're even taught to make this kind of phonetичний розбір, so like phonetical analysis of the word, where you write the transcription in brackets, you analyze how many letters the word has, how many sounds, and we give characteristic to every sound. That, for example, L is consonant, hard and sonorous in this word, in the word lis. I is vowel, which is stressed because just 1 vowel in this word, and S is consonant, hard and voiceless. While in the next word, lis, we also have 3 sounds, but L here already becomes soft because it's followed by sound E. And this is the difference between these 2 words. And this way we learn to analyze all the phonetics of any word in Ukrainian. If we speak about morphemics, here for non-native speakers, I would say that the biggest attention we put, of course, to endings, because we spend a lot of time with learning endings of verb conjugations, of cases, etc. And of course on prefixes, because prefixes, we know that they change the meaning of the word, especially verbs, a lot, and we need to know how they work. So, for example, we learned that endings for masculine nouns in different cases will look like this, zero ending for nominative case, ending a, ya, or uyu for genitive, and so on. Or, for example, prefixes, we learned that prefix pere can mean either to cross, like перейти дорогу, or to overdo something, to do over the limit, like перепрацювати, to overwork, or maybe to do something again, перечитати книгу, to reread it, to redo it again. Or, for example, prefix до we use to finish doing something, like допрацювати, to finish work, or to get to the end, доїхати до місця призначення, like to arrive basically to your place. So we learn actually what those prefixes mean, sometimes suffixes, and especially endings, while native speakers learn to analyze the whole word structure and learn to do actual morphemic analysis of the word. And you can see now, I even put a photo on the slide how it looks, how we would do it at school. We would find the stem of the word, the root, prefix, suffix, ending, and analyze what they mean, how they work, which letters are supposed to be written in this or that stem, for example, and then we learn what are the same stem words. So it's already much deeper analysis of those morphemes. If we speak about syntaxes and punctuation, also here we of course would have different approach. Non-native speakers would learn different types of sentences in order just to create them, to form them, right? For example, how to form affirmative sentence, how to ask a question, because again that can be very different, for example, from English sometimes, or how to form a negative sentence, and which conjunctions we have to combine a sentence, and so on. Native speakers, they go much deeper. They also learn types of sentences, but already from more like a linguistic point of view. They learn punctuation science, like where to put each of them, very detailed, because this is kind of difficult even for native speakers. When we speak, we don't hear punctuation science, so we specifically learn it on the lessons, how and where to put each of them. And of course, we analyze the parts of the sentences, learn to define what is the subject of the sentence, what is predicate, what is direct and indirect object, and so on. And here on the picture again, you can see how we do it on the lesson. We have specific way of highlighting, like underline each part of the sentence, like one line for subject, 2 lines for predicate, other types of lines for objects, and so on. So this is how we analyze it, and then we say what type of sentence is it, does it have just 1 subject, 2 subjects, and so on. So this is also like this fundamental analysis of your own language. And this is what builds your general linguistic qualification and competence. Not native speakers, they just don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need to know it for communication. You have other priorities and goals. If we speak about stylistics, foreigners, non-native speakers need to develop ability to communicate in different communicative situations, as we said already, in order to express different intentions. Yeah, so you need to be ready to order coffee in the coffee shop, to talk by phone with your hotel, to talk with your colleagues in Ukraine or your family, or maybe to give an interview in Ukrainian to Ukrainian TV, yeah? And you need to understand how to behave and what vocabulary to use, what structures to use, where you can speak more formally, where more informally, and so on. While for native speaker, it's already a bit deeper. We need to, of course, distinguish also different styles of communication, and normally we learn those 5. It's conversational, formal, like business formal, literary, which is the language of books, academic, so at university, yeah, all the research, scientific, and journalistics, like the language of media, TV, and so on. Also, we learn to identify those stylistic devices as what is a metaphor, what is a comparison, hyperbole, irony, and so on. Yeah, so this is when we already in higher school analyze different kinds of texts and learn to find those devices in them. And this is how we also understand our language much deeper. Also, we develop sensitivity to connotations, what is negative connotation, what is positive, what is more neutral connotation. Also, we learn understanding of different genres, of course. Here we already also rely on literature a lot. And critical reading skills, yeah, so this is all what needs like what is needed to develop a personality, yeah, in general, and this is what we learn during our lessons at school. And if we speak about socio-cultural aspect, also we look at it differently. For non-native speakers, we need to learn about the country in general, about its culture. Yeah, this is where we learn cuisine, some folk traditions, a little bit of literature, maybe a little bit about art, and so on. Yeah, and we need to help non-native speakers. We as teachers, I mean, need to help you to integrate into society if it's needed, if you're moving, if you're visiting Ukraine a lot. We need to help you to feel comfortable here. Besides just language, just communication, yes, some certain conversation, but in general, to better understand the context that surrounds you. While for native speakers, we are learning to analyze our culture, like all of its layers, through the language, through the texts, yeah, through the literature, through all of the language instruments, like I said before, when we learn those metaphors, irony, and so on. We also learn history of our language, how it was developed, and for Ukraine it's especially important since our language was suppressed many times. How many times it was forbidden, it's very difficult even to imagine that, how it was changed, how it was impacted by some historical and political acts, yeah, and this is important to know about your language, because this is what makes you a proper citizen of the country. So of course this is also what is important to learn, and here we also can speak about deep understanding of etymology and phraseology, yeah, because in order to understand your language deep, you need to understand how this or that vocabulary was created, developed, and phraseology, it is a mirror of your culture, basically. So this is a very important part of learning Ukrainian for native speakers. And of course, some of these moments we also touch and learn when we learn Ukrainian as a foreign language. We learn some idioms, some phraseology, some etymology. Yeah, we talk about it. But of course, for native speakers, it's always much deeper, because native speaker already knows own language normally well enough, and when they go deeper, it's just this general education happening. And that's it. That's all that I wanted to tell here. Basically, one more thing that I didn't say here, didn't mention, is that, of course, the tasks types that we use for learning Ukrainian as a native language and non-native language will be very different, because if you need, for example, some tasks for matching, maybe for filling the gaps and so on, we as native speakers will need different kinds of tasks, and I showed you some of them, like when we make some analysis of the words, of sounds, parts of sentence, and so on. So yeah, the types of tasks themselves will be very different, because we have different goals. Yeah, in general, that's it. I'm very interested in your thoughts. What do you think after listening to this video? How you would compare learning your own native language at school and learning any foreign language that you learn. Can you add anything to the list that I have just created? It will be very interesting to discuss. So I invite you to the comments, and please don't forget to give like to this video. And especially, as usual, want to thank my patrons on Patreon and my supporters on YouTube, because you very much help me to keep creating these videos, and I am very, very grateful to you. If anyone wants to support Verba School, my channel, you can do it either in YouTube or on Patreon. All the links are in the video description. So guys, thank you so much. It was nice to see you. Hope to see you soon, and бувайте!